Morning everyone, and thanks for joining us today to learn about our new multi-network SIMs. My name's Sam and I'll be your webinar host. If at any point you've got a question, please put it in the Q&A box and we'll do our best to answer it at the end. We are recording the session today and you'll get a link to the recording following the webinar. So at this point, I'd just like to introduce you to your panelists. I'm joined today by my colleagues, Craig, Charles and Richard Shelford. So Craig's going to be providing some background and context about why we're branching into cellular and the value that multi-network SIMs can bring to your M2M and IoT deployments. Then Richard's going to take us through a quick demo of the customer portal so you can see how easy it is to provision and manage your SIMs. Then we're going to hand back to Craig for a quick outline of next actions and how you can get your hands on a free SIM for 6 months so you can try it for yourself. So without further ado, I'll hand over to you, Craig.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We've got an hour booked in for today, but I think we'll probably be about half that, maybe just over. So hopefully we've got to give you a bit of time back for your day. So yeah, I just wanted to start by I think to be fair, I think quite a lot of people here are know of Open Reality and our background, but I think it'd be fair to say that most of our kind of reputation exists in the Wi-Fi world. We've got a lot of Echow customers, I think, on the session today. So yeah, I really want to just kind of get a little bit of background about some of our logic and reasoning behind that. We do like the idea of us having a kind of wireless sort of specialization in terms of what we provide. And I suppose wireless being literally a broad spectrum. For us, looking at cellular has been a logical next step to complement what we're doing in Wi-Fi. So not too relevant in terms of the meeting, the session today, but we have made steps into offering private, kind of LTE and 5G infrastructure. So, if you guys that are interested in the sort of more public cellular side today, but also potentially have requirements for providing sort of private 5G or like I said, even LTE, we do have a vendor that provides a very cost-effective, integrated, built like a Wi-Fi controller. So if you're familiar with the Wi-Fi world and the private 5G feels a little bit daunting, this is something which could appeal because it's very simple to implement and to use system. So look, again, if there's interest in that, reach out to your Open Reality points of contact and we can advise you further on that. And yeah, you may have seen recently we all started working with Teltonica, who provide a very broad range of 4-5G routers and gateways, and that was for us, I suppose, moving to that world. It was then logical for us to kind of look at complementary packages. So obviously people were looking at obviously data packages to go alongside the routers. So hence why we've launched our own kind of multi-network SIM package, so which what I'm going to cover in a second. So in terms of some sort of positioning, I think it goes without saying that the growth of mobile data has been huge, and I think a lot of that will come about due to the increased speeds. Interestingly, it felt like a lifetime ago, and I was in mobile phones when I was a lot younger. I've been in Open Reality in the IT game for a little while, but I can kind of remember when GPRS and kind of 2G was kind of launched, and they were really showing my age here. We're talking about WAP. I don't know if you remember WAP. This there was like internet on your phone sort of thing, which was kind of was renamed something different in when I was working in that game, because it was really like teletext, and obviously the speeds and reality were so slow you couldn't really do much with it. But fast forward to today with 4-5G speeds, and we genuinely can run networks and IoT and everything with mobile data now, and it really gives an alternative option and more flexible option to traditional wired connectivity and obviously Wi-Fi traffic as well. So yeah, that is just growing massively, and I think even some of our Wi-Fi partner base that has been very much in that kind of that world is looking at cellular, whether that be private cellular or a public cellular network, to complement what they're doing in the general connectivity space. Use cases. So like I said, with that, we are seeing cellular used either more as a a primary connectivity, even for like, we're seeing in retail stores, hospitality, where it's providing a primary connectivity line because it's deemed to be, kind of enough capacity and speed. However, we still are also seeing it as a, kind of a backup link for out of band, connections if they do have a kind of primary internet circuit. Obviously just the sort of flexibility that you can provide. We're seeing use cases at the moment for mobile, police cars, vans, all these things potentially that need obviously internet connectivity. Vending machines, we saw one recently, CCTV. The kind of list is endless about devices and networks that need to connect to the internet, but kind of wiring, having either a traditional wired connectivity sort of breakout or even using Wi-Fi. And I think we're seeing, like I said, Stella really being a viable option when it comes to connectivity. So I think again, most people are kind of comfortable with the kind of use cases and where cellular can be used. But I think the more traditional way of approaching this has been, well, I'll get a SIM from a provider, whether that be Vodafone or O2, and that's sort of been the more common way of connecting these devices. Obviously, that's what we're all familiar with regards to our our own handsets that we use. Obviously, again, talking about where some of the use cases before with mobile sites, these sites could be anywhere, and you kind of don't quite know which network has coverage, or the best coverage. Equally, devices that are mobile and one area to another area. So I think having a single network is limiting in the fact that you may have areas that don't have coverage, and equally, if you're reliant on a single network, if that network was to go down, there's no resilience, so there's no kind of failover within that. So and equally, with regards to how you kind of manage some of that, when it's provided by the provider, you don't always have, obviously there's a website login and you can do certain things, but you don't have a huge amount of control over the estate that you manage. So obviously that whilst it'd be fair to say most networks now have good coverage, when you are looking at needing higher speeds, 4 or 5G, where capacity coverage are a problem, relying on a single network can does have its limitations. So our solution is effectively all 4 UK networks, so O2, Vodafone, okay, it's wrong, 3 and EE. Sorry, I didn't write it down. So all 4 UK networks on a single SIM card. So effectively, the way it will work is you'll have the best signal will automatically be selected. So you could have 50 SIMs all around the country, and one's using one of the networks, one's using another network. It will automatically give you the best signal. And equally, again, if that were to fail over, you would have potentially 3 additional networks, depending on the coverage of those networks, that could effectively provide again a consistent connection. So there's an automatic failover to make sure that you always have a connection. So if one of the 4, so it should provide you the best service you can get. The portal, like I said, we'll show in a minute. There is a self-management portal that gives you a lot of control with regards to managing, provisioning, and just kind of doing everything. So you as a customer, as a partner, have full control over the system. The tariffs, I'll come second in tariffs, but effectively we provide a kind of aggregate tariff. So if you were to again have 50 SIMs, one SIM was under, one SIM was over the allowance, effectively you will have a pooled amount of data, which gives you a little bit more flexibility with regards to making sure you stay within your kind of allocated data to avoid any overcharges. And also, we have public IP addresses. There's fixed IP addresses. It's not referenced here, but we could also do private ADNs. So if you are connecting back on a VPN, there's lots of options again with regards to running this in a more kind of B2B world that you don't always get in the consumer world. So lots of flexibility. So we do have, so we'll talk about the 4 UK networks are covered. The packages and the tariffs that we have do go into Europe within the data allowance. I will stress though, for these is 4 networks in the UK. it's different in some cases. Some it's 4, some it's 3. In Europe, some it's 2, some it's 1. So if you've got any interest about a particular country, let us know, because it might not be 4 networks. In most cases, it's more than 1, but there are a couple. So rather than list them all now, which you're not so worried about, best thing is to reach out to us. And again, if you need to go beyond these countries, we can do that. It just, there's a slightly different commercial profile when you're going outside of these regions. But effectively, we can do, kind of global, but with the pricing that we're going to show shortly and the allowances, these effectively what we can cover. And yeah, how many networks per country will vary slightly. So 4 in the UK, and like I said, it differs a little bit depending on where you're going. So not going to steal Richard's thunder, because I think the next point is we're going to actually show the portal, and we're going to go into a little bit more detail about how you'd kind of, set everything up. The bits that I want to cover really is, with regards to, we provide our solutions into our partners. We can effectively white label our portal. So if you are going to give customers their own access on a tiered basis, which Richard will cover, it, there is a kind of parent-child model. There can be rebranded portals. And again, we can do multi-tenanted. So if you've got you as a partner have several customers hanging off of that, it can all be multi-tenanted. All of the the kind of billing will be defined, so which customer has been using a certain amount of data in the relevant bills. And that's everything all done in the self-provisioning portal. So at that point, I will hand over to Richard. Stop talking now, and Richard can take you through the portal demo, and then I'll come back afterwards to cover some of the commercials.
Right. Okay. So I'm logged into here to our demo instance. Now, from our demo instance, when I first log in, I have a dashboard, and I can see that I've got 3 SIMs in total, 2 of which are active and 1 of which is stock. Now, a stock SIM is a SIM that's assigned to the account but isn't costing anything other than if there's a charge to physically buy the SIM in the first place. So you can have everything ready, waiting for when somebody says, I need this to go live tomorrow, or in half an hour's time, hopefully, and you can have a SIM ready to assign them. Now I'm looking here at the overview. Now, which customers do I have? Well, I can drill down and see. Come on. Let's log off. Why is this taking forever? That's okay. So on here, I had just a couple of demo customers. So we've got an OR user customer and the customer 2. Now I can drill in and see what customer 2 is actually doing. So come into his details. And so customer 2 has 2 SIMs. He has a total of 2 gig of data. He's got his 2 activated SIMs. He has none in stock, because you can also assign SIMs to a customer so that they can be ready to be activated when they require them to be activated. Now, remember, I'm looking here as the partner, so at your level over the environment. Now, on this particular customer, they have 1 user who also has access to the portal. Now, when they log into the portal, they will see a slightly different screen, in that they are seeing a subset. Note, they can only see a dashboard. They can see the SIMs that are assigned to them, and they can see their call data records. So if it was a phone system, these would be the call records. This is a data system, so it's the data usage that's been recorded on it. So they have a limited view on that side of it. So this is a customer logging in to their account on your instance. They will see your logos, etc. across it. They'll see their name for in this case, the OR customer, and they have some control or capability of their SIMs. Now you can control that customers access and what they want to be able to do. So I'm not going to allow them to create additional users on their instance, for example. I will, however, allow them to activate and to bar SIMs. I won't allow them to request a bolt-on, so additional data onto the environment. That's my choice, what I want to do to it. I will allow them to do tariff changes. Now, the tariff changes that they will have access to are the ones that I will allow them to have access to. So it can be a subset. So you may say, well, I'm only going to give you access to just, as a end user customer, just these 3 tariffs to be able to change through. So it might be, the 1 gig, the 10 gig a month tariffs. They're the 2 options that you can change between the 2. However, you as the partner, you could assign them a different tariff to one of their SIMs, so they know they contact you personally if they want to do a 100 gig a month tariff, for example. So you have to effectively authorize by creating that or assigning that tariff to that partner or to that SIM. On that side of it, they've got some access to the SIM, so they can edit it. So in other words, they can edit the details that are assigned to that SIM, so the contact email, the telephone number, contact telephone number assigned to it, and also they can actually add their own tagging. So it might be that they say, well, we want to tag the SIM with the London office, the Edinburgh office, wherever, so they can instantly go and see that SIM has been assigned to this particular site, so they have the access to it. Now you can see that in here, when he goes to the SIMs, this is the tagging here. So it's tagged to the LTP demo, so where it's assigned. This is no tag to this Teltonica device. This exclamation mark is purely because the SIM currently is not showing any activity. It should still not showing. I've just recently plugged the SIM back in again, so it takes a few minutes for it to reconnect and start to show activity to be connected on the system on that side of it. There is no requirement to have the adult bar, which is why that's been removed. Now, I can, as the administrator of this instance, I can assign different data settings, etc., as required for that user. So if I want to go and create a new partner, so the thing that I will do is I'll click create new. And it's okay, I give him a name and give him a name on that. I can put an email address on here. Now, by putting an email address on here, this is the email address that will receive notifications, for example, that the SIM has just been barred because it's exceeded the data allowance, or any other system generated account. Now, that could be accounts department, it could be whoever. It's irrelevant, it's just an email address. If we have got a data pool for that customer, we can assign a data pool. We can assign a data pool to them, and we can also assign a APN if we are using a private APN environment. All of this can be changed retrospectively. So I'm just going to create that partner. So I've added him twice now. So I've added my partner into here. I can now go into that partner. I can also edit the credentials. So, I want to assign him. Now this suspend means that I can, if I've got users associated to that customer, I can block them from being able to access their portal on that side of it. So it might be, for example, they haven't paid their bill. Well, I'm not going to immediately block all of their SIMs, but I will block them from having access to be able to manage their SIMs, in the sense of changing tariffs on them. So I'm now going to go into this partner demo. And the first thing I need to do is I could add a user. I don't have to add users, but I do need to decide that he's going to have a SIM SIM. So I'm now going to assign a SIM. So I'm going to assign my individual SIM. So I've got this one unassigned SIM. So I'm going to basically assign that SIM to that customer. Now, once that SIM has been assigned to the customer, it can then be activated. I can also move that SIM back into my environment. So we've got this one unactivated SIM here. If I want to pull that SIM and give it to another customer, I can unassign it, moving it back up to my level, and then assign it to another customer. On that side of it, it's also possible to move SIMs between customers. So it may be, for example, that the London office wants to become a second charging unit. So we'll create a London office customer, and then we can move a SIM from the original to the London office charging unit. Depends how you want to run it. It's full flexible on that side of it. So if I want to assign that SIM, so it's been activated, I now want to activate that SIM. Now, before you really activate the SIM, you want to probably decide if you're going to allow the customers access to this portal, which tariffs they're going to see. Now you can do that under the here. So this has got all of the tariffs that I have access to. Now it might be that you only want to give your customer the ability to use, a 500 mega a month tariff or a 1 gig tariff. None of the multi-year tariffs. It's up to you which ones you want to provide to them. The fact that they've been provided to you, been assigned to the account, but not had the tick box against it, just means that only you can assign that tariff to a SIM. So if I'd come to the SIM here, I've got my unactivated SIM and I'm going to activate it. Now through the activation process, you would select the operator it's going to be using on. Now that needs to be based on the tariff that you've actually, or the SIM you've got here. If it's going to a private APN, what it is, and then you would select the options that you want here. So is it aggregated? Is it a fixed IP address, etc.? What tariff I want? Well, I've only got a 1 gig tariff for this one available for this particular SIM, and then you would select the SIM and then finally create the order. Now when you create the order, that starts the process going through to activate the SIM and making the SIM become live. It generally takes 10-15 minutes for that SIM to be activated. However, it may take slightly longer depending on how long the responses come from the back end environment. Once that SIM has been activated, you would then see, if we come into here, that the number of activated SIMs would have gone up to 1, 2, 3, etc. on that side of it. If you want to see the individual SIMs, we can see that we've got the 2 SIMs. So what are those SIMs doing? Now, because I'm here as a administrator, I have a lot more options available. So here I can change a tariff. I can bar the SIM. Barring a SIM is just going to block the SIM from using the network. Ceasing the SIM is going to basically scrap the SIM. Once that SIM has been, the cease process has been initiated, then it will be terminated and cannot be rejoined to the environment. I can edit the details. So editing the details. So if here you see, I might say I want to move it to another customer. I can move that SIM to another customer on the system on that side of it. I'm now looking here at the details of that individual SIM, so we can see the information about it. It's active, how much data it's used over the month. It's used 0.11% of its 1 gig of data allowance. Now what will actually happen if we exceed the allowances? Well, we will get automated alerts. So by default, once you hit 50% of your airtime utilization on this SIM, we will get a note. So you, the reseller, you would receive a email alerting saying that, you know, this SIM for this customer has now exceeded 50% of its airtime utilization. That's okay. I can ignore that at this point. The SIM, so the email address associated with the SIM will also receive it, as well as the customer will receive a notification. So they can see in real time their usage of data. Now you'll see here that as soon as you hit 100% of utilization on this SIM, that SIM will then be blocked from having access to the environment. Now you can see from here what's been happening. Now you, as the customer here, you would see an alerts overview, and you can see what's going on that side of it. Overview on here, you would see again, what alerts have been used, etc., around the environment on that side of it. You have some reporting, so you, as the partner, when you're generating of your reports, you can see, what reports have been activated. So I want to do a SIM report. So show me where all of my SIMs have been used. I'm going to say the last month, all the customers, and I'm going to send the request in for that. Now it will take a few minutes for that to appear. Once it's appeared, I can now download that SIM, and I can see now where my SIMs are, who's got them, what they've been activated, what tariffs there are on, etc. So I immediately can see where my SIMs actually are on that side of it. Do I need to show? Probably not. So
and Richard, you can bulk provision, assign, activate SIMs as well, can't you? You don't have to do it one by one.
Oh, sure. No, exactly. So this being in my demo environment, I only have a limited number of SIMs available. So hence, I do them individually and singly. But yes, if it's got multiple SIMs, you just select the ones you want to assign, activate, and do them in one swoop.
Huh. Okay, we'll hand back to Craig then. I'll just.
Okay, let me share my screen. So, yeah, just one quick point on with regards to Richard's demo. So, if you are doing, you're interested in onboarding and you're doing a quite a high run rate of SIMs, we can send the stock SIMs, so the physical SIMs, in advance, so you can just provision them on the fly as well. Equally, you can just order them as and when you need them. So, depending on how quickly you need them and how regularly. So, in terms of the commercial price point. So effectively, like a normal tariff you guys would be familiar with, there's a certain amount of data allowance. So we range, as an example, 500 meg all the way up to 200 gig. We can go north of that, obviously. But yeah, effectively, we've got a kind of wholesale price here. I mean, if the data volumes are relatively low, as you can see, they're comparable, I think, at the lower ends if you were going to buy a dedicated network SIM, like a single network SIM. So I think commercially, this does compare well. Obviously, if the data volumes go up, potentially there's some discussions that potentially we could have around the kind of higher volumes of data. Obviously, there's some cost advantage of signing in for a longer term. For partners, in terms of, there are some partner discounts available. They will depend on how much volume of data and how many SIMs. So at the moment, if you were doing a very small number of SIMs, small amount of data, this pricing is kind of what you would see. But as you start to use basically more data, we apply a discount, a sort of partner discount, which we can share with you separately, and that's tiered. The more data you get, the higher the discount is. So potentially, if you are doing a reasonable amount of data, there is a further saving on top of here as well, which we can share with you separately. Obviously, there are some overage charges, but there's also flexibility, as Richard mentioned, to have alerting, to have visibility of when tariffs are going over its data allowance, and potentially then increasing that package. But again, I want to point out that one of the slides at the beginning was the aggregate data. So if you do have 10, 20, 30 SIMs or whatever, these data allowances will aggregate. So if you have 10 gig, for example, and you've got 10 SIMs, my maths even can do that, it's 100 gig. So you will have a bit of flexibility when you go up and down as well, really. So happy to kind of share some of the commercials and some of the partner pricing that we've got separately to that. So, but I wanted to give you a bit of a flavor that I think there is some perception that having more networks under one SIM can be more expensive than a single network SIM, but it's not necessarily the case.
Craig, just on that, that's all billed monthly by direct debit, right?
Correct. So there's a per month price per SIM. Yeah, and this is obviously the 1 year price for that, and this is a 3 year price. Yeah. So effectively, you had 10 SIMs at 1 gig, we'd be billing £26 on 1 year, £23.80 on 3 years per month. And obviously, if it goes out the contract period, it will just continue to bill as it is. It's just obviously you've got flexibility to move. Whereas obviously you can't in contract. So effectively anybody that's attended the session or anybody that's registered for the session is entitled to a free SIM card, which would be live for 6 months, has 1 gig of data per month. The idea behind this is twofold, really. Obviously, the kind of process with this would be you'd spend about half an hour as an onboarding session. So we would give you portal access. You'd be able to go into that, order your SIM, and you'd be able to test the network as well. So effectively, you would then be in a position to continue using that SIM beyond on a chargeable basis, upgrade that SIM's data allowance on a chargeable basis, and obviously only pay for the difference. But also you would just be ready to onboard any other SIMs or multiple customers. So you would kind of be effectively a kind of live customer. So we will individually follow up with the guys that have attended live. If you're watching on pre-recorded, again, as long as you've registered for the session, you qualify for this offer. So the account manager probably reach out, or if you want to reach out to them, feel free. There will be a recording. We've got all of the information that we've provided on a kind of brochure that we can send to you guys if you want further details. Hopefully that's been a useful overview. I think I said half an hour to 45 minutes. So we've got a bit of Q&A. I think we should be on time. So Sam, was there any questions that come through?
Yeah, only just got a couple. So if anybody has got one, put it in the Q&A box now and we'll answer it. So is there a minimum order volume? That's the first question.
No.
Yeah.
No, there's not. As I said a second ago, the more data you consume, the pricing gets lower. So if you were using one SIM and at the lower end of the data, fine. Obviously, the pricing you were seeing on the matrix would be applicable. But if you were to ramp up even more SIMs, or predominantly, it can still be a small number of SIMs but higher data volume. That's the kicking point. It's the amount of total data that you're using. Then potentially the price could be lower, I think, is the answer there.
Can we do SIMs outside of Europe? I think you've already covered that one off, Craig. Yes, we can, but it's price on application. So contact us if you need more information about that.
Not necessarily. So not necessarily. So if it's within the list of countries we've listed, they're all included with your data allowance. So you can use all those countries and it's all included with your pricing and your data. How many networks are covered on those other countries will vary. So it might be 1, 2, or 3. I think there's 1 on 4. If you want countries that are outside of that list is when it'll be price on application. So there'll be slightly different data charging. It's not going to be crazy, but and again, if you're going internationally, again, we can do pretty much any country, but there are, particularly in some places, there's quite a big variation in kind of mobile data costs in certain countries. So if you need to go outside of that list, contact us individually. But yeah, within that list, don't worry, you could take your SIMs, it'll automatically roam, and then, you know, obviously within your allowance, you could use that data.
Can you also provide routers?
Yes, absolutely. So right at the beginning, mentioned that we partner with Teltonica, who provide a really broad range and competitive pricing. It's probably worth pointing out that we can, obviously the SIMs will work with any router, and vice versa. You know, we distribute Teltonica as a standalone device as well. So if you want to use a combined solution, we can provide that, but equally we can provide the routers on their own. If you've got SIMs for whatever reason, equally we can provide SIMs without the routers. So yes, all combinations we can support.
Great. I think that wraps us up then. So Craig, thank you very much. Richard, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining. As I mentioned at the start, you'll get a copy of the recording into your inbox shortly. I've got one last question. Are these SIMs for data only, or can you use them for calling?
No, it is data only. Yes, it's a good question. It is data only. Again, there are options outside of that, but the tariffs we've mentioned, there is a data only tariff. Yeah. Mainly, we're aiming for, you know, we talk about it as being a multi, you know, kind of network connectivity and IoT devices. Yeah, I suppose you could still use them on a handset or a tablet, you know, again, if it's data only. But no, they don't have a you know, kind of calling element to them. But we do, you know, we're coming up with the idea behind this is really simple, you know, multi-network, cost-effective packages for data only, which is probably where we're seeing most of the use cases. If there are requirements outside of that, then there is flexibility. We just don't want to overcomplicate it by this tariff, you know, this international, this is data. So I think if you know, are interested in something that's a bit different, then absolutely we can do that. And again, one thing I will say is it's still on the same portal. So what we can do is we can still say everything's managed under one portal. And what we can probably do is tailor some of the packages that are in your view. We're just not necessarily marketing, because we're just trying to go with something which is quite simple, which is, like I said, all the networks, aggregate data, competitive pricing. But yeah, there's some flexibility outside that which we can do on a case-by-case basis. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, as I was saying, thank you, Craig. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And yeah, you'll get a copy of the recording very soon. See you next time.
All right, guys, thanks for your time. Have a good day.